Bring in James Maclaren. He's a former British Army officer and a defense and security journalist. He joins us now from London. James, good to have you on the show. I want to first begin by asking you about this U.S. House bill or passing this $40 billion aid package. I mean, in it, there is billions of dollars worth of arms and military equipment. Yasmin, in her lead story, mentioned, I think it was about $6 billion in actual arms and training. I mean, if you're Vladimir Putin, you're saying, okay, so they want a full-out war and there's no reason for peace talks. I mean, this is looking like it's going to be a prolonged war.
Definitely, I agree with that latter point. It certainly is going to be a prolonged war, and I think this is where Putin has made his strategic mistake. He has overestimated his own capability, underestimated the ability of the Ukrainians to respond, and underestimated the ability of the West. On the 40 billion aid package, it is, of course, a vast amount of money and will do a great deal to help the Ukrainian war effort. But in defense terms, 40 billion, huge as it sounds, is not that great. It's less than the defense budget of the UK for 1 year. And they are consuming and have a great requirement for arms and munitions that will quickly eat through that. I've no doubt more is to come. It is a promising start. It will certainly keep Russia entrapped, but it's not likely to remove Putin's end strength.
I'm interested to get your analysis on this, because what do you think is the West's approach here? Is it, okay, let's let Russia deplete itself completely and suffer greatly from a prolonged or drawn-out war, or do they say, let's prevent him from going full out, using weapons of mass destruction and possibly a wider war with NATO? Because when you look at it, both are possibilities.
They certainly are. I think if I was a Western strategist in Washington or London or Paris or somewhere, I'd be quietly hoping now that the Ukrainians can do enough to keep Russia decisively engaged and being mauled in Ukraine, and teach it a lesson that it won't recover from a couple of decades. Add that to the economic situation as well. So the Ukrainians will be given enough combat power to do what they need to do. Russia, I do not believe, has the combat power to achieve many of its strategic aims. I don't think it can get to Odessa. I don't think it can create this land bridge around the Black Sea that it wants to do. And it's going to find itself, not struggling, but it's going to find itself heavily engaged in defending the gains that it has made. And of course, it has made gains. Its first priority will be to hold on to the territory that it has taken from Ukraine.
James, let me remind you, if you remember at the very beginning of this conflict, when they had that 60-kilometer convoy outside of Kiev, and when they were unable to sort of capture the capital, they sort of re-strategized and moved their forces to the east. So we shouldn't be too quick in terms of judging the Russian military's ability. I want to ask you about, there's been a lot of talk in terms of the Russians perhaps maybe depleting their stockpiles of smart ammunitions and weapons. This could drastically change the nature of the war when you're using sort of low-precision bomb ammunitions.
Very much so. I mean, all major military powers have a number of precision weapons. They are hugely expensive, despite their effectiveness. We cannot keep large stockpiles of them, and the Russians are no different. So they may well have to return to a more analog form of warfare, where they rely on extremely heavy artillery barrages, tank formations, trying to cover ground. And all of this will lead to a great deal more collateral damage. And I think this is what we are looking at the moment, is we are looking at a prolonged analog type of conflict in the eastern part of the country, with Putin's original aims beginning to recede, but nevertheless, they will be clinging on to the territory they've taken. That bit on the convoy is interesting. A lot of that is just a feature of Russian doctrine. It takes an awful lot of logistical effort to maintain a line of communication to an advancing army, which is moving over unfamiliar ground against a determined opposition. They have regrouped, they have learned, but so have the Ukrainians. And I think this is now going to go on for some time to come.
Not only is it difficult to sort of keep up that line of communication, but there's food. What happens if it's a single file sort of convoy? If one breaks down, there's a domino effect. All right, James Maclaren, I do appreciate your time. Thank you for the analysis.